whereas the kids were like my friends, and I was a coach. After that, after training finished or game had finished, they'd go home and spend time. My son was coming home with a coach and not coming home with his dad.
Yeah.
And I get emotional. And it's about relationship, really. Well, we're best mates, but it was always I knew better, and that shouldn't be right. You know, Cole probably doesn't know this, but there was times in my career when Paul Cullen was coaching around that area where, you know, I needed reality back in my life, so I'd have a few days off training and say I was ill, but I wasn't ill. I was going labouring. Labouring for my friend just to get me back into the real world, and make sure that my feet are on the ground. I've always and will never ever forget where I come from, but it's sometimes you lose track of that, and it's not through no fault of your own. It's just the way you get caught up in a bubble. So yeah, there's many times where I've actually worked in Warrington on putting glass in bars and stuff with me hood up when I'm meant to be at training, just because it wasn't that I was doing anything mischievous. It's just that I wanted to get my head right and, you know, making sure that I knew how lucky I was.
Welcome to Your Round Podcast. Me, John Lebbon, Anthony Ellis, and the legend Lee Briers. Lee, cheers for coming on. Another nice house. I said there's no money in Rugby League, but this looks like it's doing all right.
Well, I've been in it a long time, let me tell you, but, you know, living with a professional shopper, what I do with my missus, I'm surprised I've got this much.
We were talking before that, obviously Warrington's what everyone knows you from, but I remember you making your debut for St Helens, and I can remember, I think Bobby Goulden had took Neil Cower's head off, so he got that ban for a couple of months, and then you come on the scene, and at the time, I don't know if it's my memory, but you looked about 10 stone or 11 stone wet through, you looked about 9. How was that, like, making a debut in that sort of a team with Tommy Martin and all the other players?
Yeah, you're dead right, I was about 10 stone, but I remember the day as if it was yesterday, because I was in the stands, you know, half cut, being a Saints fan. I was playing in the academy at the time, but, you know, it was a Saturday afternoon, Challenge Cup day, so we'd had a few drinks, and I'm cheering my head off because Bobby Goulden's literally just took Neil Cower's head off, not realising that actually that event is going to change my life forever, because 2 days later on the Monday I got called into the squad and said I'm going to make my debut, so it was crazy to make my debut with the likes of who you said, Tommy Martin, Steve Prescott, Alan Hunt, Carl Hammond, Apollo Pelling, Keenan Cunningham. You know, anybody can play well in them teams.
How did it feel when you first got on? Because you'll have been on the academy scheme. What sort of money were you on there? Oh, obviously, you don't have to say, but yeah, well, I can't imagine it was great money to and then jump into the first team.
Yeah, well, I was on £29.50 YTS, and I got £1,000 every birthday, so not a lot of money, let me say. Well, I'll tell you how much I didn't have. I didn't even have a bank account, so I didn't need one.
And when you got in the first team, did the money go up, or did they just say, no, this is a contract we've agreed? And
yes, so I got bonuses because basically I played in all the Challenge Cup games, so they paid me cash in hand, so no wonder I've got a nice house. Don't tell the time.
Because that's the thing people don't realise about Rugby League. People just assume you're on millions of pounds a year and stuff like that, don't they? Like, oh, look at all the money he's got, and especially being like an academy lad and stuff like that.
It went from obviously being on £29.50 YTS to having a good run in the Challenge Cup where you get quite a good bonus. So I think off the top of my head I earned about 11 grand in that. So first thing I did was bought mum and dad a telephone because we didn't have a phone at home, so I didn't have to go and use the red phone box at the top of the road anymore.
You don't hear them sort of stories in like the Premiership, do you? Never hear Alan Shearer saying I have to buy my mama a landline and stuff like that.
It's crackers.
What was it like growing? Because you grew up in this area, didn't you, St Helens?
Oh, yeah, it was. I lived. Well, it was further into St Helens where I lived in. You won't believe that, would you? I lived in a council estate over in Eccleston, so it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. We used to live in a cul-de-sac where probably about 8 kids around my age live, so every day we was doing something mischievous. I remember, you know, I come into the sport when I was 4 years of age. St Helens Crusaders had just been founded, and they had an under-9 team. Now there's quite a few people who we used to knock about with when I was 4 were around the 8 years of age. So I used to just go on a Tuesday and Thursday with those guys to train and messing about and stuff. So that's how I found my love.
Were you talented right off the bat, or were you one of that just got better with age? Because you see some kids like under 9s, and it's normally the fat kids that are good because they're just running through people and stuff. Were you one that found your feet a little bit later on? Because you got signed quite late for St Helens, were you about 16 or something like that?
I did. I think, I don't think, I know how it works. Obviously being a coach now and going through it with my own lad. From being 4, I played when I was 4, so I was playing under 9s when I was 4. When I was 5, I was under 9s. When I was 6, I was under 9s. When I was 7, I was under 9s. 8, under 9s. Then actually when I was 9, I went to under 10s. I didn't play under 9s. So I had a lot of time to play, and I was very skillful, and I was a standout up until probably 11, about 12, 13 when I stopped growing. I was really small, but I'd already had the skills in me, where other people at 12, 13, they come into puberty, Jesus. I didn't have any puberty till I was like 16, 17, so...
Same.
So they then, the big kid always gets seen.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But in that little while then, the small kid, he's got to find a way to fight and to not get hurt, and, you know, to get over these big kids, because he's not going to do physicality. So that's what I learnt in those years. Then I did get signed later on at 16, when everybody else was signed, but I then grew to like 5'11", and so I had the skill. I kind of had the toughness, not in a fighting way because I couldn't fight my way out of a paper bag, but I learnt to play the game tough, and then, you know, I grew. So with all that in play, that's when they see me, and it happens. You know, my son's the same. He was the best kid about from 6 to probably 11, 12. Didn't grow.
Yeah.
And then he's 6'3" now, and then he got picked up late, so he's following the same path as me, and I think it's a real big learning curve for rugby teams out there, for scouts and stuff, that stop taking kids at 14, 13 and gambling on them, because the big kid at 13, 14 is not the big kid at 15, 16. And if the big kid gets through, it doesn't work all the time, but if the big kid gets through, well, Lee's next challenge is against grown men at 18. So if he's not had that grounding early on, that's why they get spat out at 18, 19.
And it's hard when they get picked up when they're young, because I remember when we were at school, and people would like go and watch them when they were 14, like, I don't need an education or anything, I'm just going to be a professional rugby player. And you think, you're just a little bit bigger. You haven't got the skill or anything. When you come against other people like the same size, they always get found out, don't they? And that's why you see these get signed at 12 and that they're never heard of again, are they?
Well, that's the case, and, you know, it's a shame really, because in sports nowadays, and we were just speaking off camera, was about the wingers and the forwards are all the same and stuff like that. They are, because generally it's the biggest kid what getting picked up nowadays. But it will change. It'll change back again with the rules, and there's always a place, especially in our sport, for the little kid, for the little person.
Did you have like a plan B? Because me and Anthony, we're not adding many GCSEs on this, so
no,
I just wondered if you were.
Well, to be fair, I got 6 A's at school. You wouldn't believe that. They were absence, by the way.
I was just sitting there going, really? What in?
So, you know, a backup plan, yeah. I 100% believe that I would either be in jail now, without a shadow of a doubt, or dead. Because where I grew up, I was at a crossroads probably at 15, 16, and, you know, I tell the story to many kids, and I was at the crossroad. I either took a left turn and I went with my friends who were all drugs, and, you know, burglars. Most of them were in jail, I think. Some of them could be dead. Or I took the rugby path where I went serious. Unfortunately, I took the serious path. But yeah, it's rugby league is like that. We're all from council estate.
Yeah.
And there was no plan B. There was no plan B at all.
And when you got picked for St Helens, them first few games, you were in the team, and everyone thought you should stay in the team. And then Bobby came back. Bobby's obviously a fantastic player. Was that the reason in going to Warrington, or did you just think, I just fancy a change, or was it money or something like that? Because you were such a young lad at St Helens. Bobby was coming towards the end of his career, sort of thing. Was it not a feeling maybe I should stay at St Helens?
Yeah, well, it happened really quick. Obviously, Bobby Cullen was going to come back in the team. He was the best scrum half in the world. Well, definitely Great Britain, if not one in the world, and he's club captain. A real mentor to me. Not many people know and understand this, but people said I left because, you know, Bobby Golden forced me out. It wasn't the case. Bobby, used to get me in on his days off. See, I worked full time at Saints. We used to go over Nosey Road, kicking, doing all skills. He was an unbelievable. He's like a father figure to me. But when I got dropped, not dropped, I didn't make the final, Challenge Cup final. I knew that I wasn't going to play. The issue was that I wasn't even going to go down to Wembley with the team. The director said, no, you're not going to come. I was gutted. All I wanted was a new suit. I never had a new suit. Well, for court, I think court. But I walked out of that meeting, I was gutted, and I don't know how this happened, but 2 days later, I got a phone call at the house. I don't know how it happened, by the way, because, like I said earlier on, we'd only just got this new phone at home. But it was an agent. It was actually Kieran Cunningham's brother. Said, listen, Lee, I want to be your agent. And I didn't know what agents were about. I'd only just learned that actually you could get paid a full-time wage for playing, because my aspirations was to be a rugby league player, but it was never professional. It was only semi-professional. And so an agent, wow, what's this all about? So I said, yeah, I'll meet up. And he said, well, by the way, Warrington have come in for you. Okay, do you want to speak to him? I said, and I was still angry about the meeting, what had gone on. And so I said, yeah, well, let's meet up. And so I met up with Warrington, and we had a good chat. Paul Cullen was there, who John, and we had a good chat, and they offered me a deal. They offered me a really good deal, and like I say, I was shit at school, but £1,000 a year on my birthday at Saints, so 36 grand cash and 36 grand a year. Well, I'm not that shit at school. I know that's a lot more money than that. So that was a big factor. My first child was ready to be born, so it kind of set me up for life. But the most important thing was they give me the number 7 shirt to run Warrington, and I've never looked back.
I was going to say, because how many years did you play at Warrington from then onwards? Did you?
Yeah, so I went from 97 to 2013, and I'm coaching there now. So I've been there nearly just over 24 years.
So how old were you when you made the move?
18.
18.
Yeah, 18, 19.
Because that's a lot to take in when you're 18, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because I remember when you see people develop at different times. And when I was there at 16, I went down Wigan for a week, and I lived with a family.
Yes.
And they would look after you and sort of thing. And I just thought, never in my life can I do this. Do you know what I mean? And for you to do it at that sort of age, I just thought, I can't wait to get home. I want my mum, my friends and stuff I want my own dinners and stuff. And at that age, people don't realise that you're still not a child, but you're still learning, aren't you? And things like that.
Of course, I'm still a child now.
Yeah.
And my missus does everything. She did do then. We'd been together nearly a year at that time. She's from Hull, so she'd moved over from Hull to live with me and my mum, and we had our first child, Sophie. I was gutted. I was only paying £10 a board, and £10 board, and that move out and get my own house. I wish I could stay, all 3 of us. But listen, you grow up quickly, don't you? You grow up quickly, and you see players now. Mental health is massive in our sport, but you see players now, they can't cope and stuff like that. But you've got to grow up sometime. You've got to learn on the job sometimes. I was becoming a full-time Warrington player. I had a big expectation to be lead them. I was becoming a father. I bought my own house within the space of 3 months. No wonder my head's fucked.
Because you were known, when you were younger, a bit of a wild lad off the field as well, weren't you? A bit of a rascal going out and things like that. But that's good to tell kids when they're younger now, isn't it? So when you're with the academy and that, you say, well, I've made these sort of mistakes. This is what you should be doing. And drinking 3 or 4 days before a game isn't always a good idea and stuff like that. And
there's one thing what I'd never compromise was drinking, 4 days before a game, 3 or 4 days. I'd never do that. But I enjoyed myself. I was an 18-year-old kid. I had a lot of money. I still didn't know about life. I was growing up. But I reflect now. I'm massive on reflecting, and I don't regret any part of me growing up. I could have done things different. I could have done better. Of course I could, but that's life. Life's a journey, and that part of my career is just a small part of my life. So without going through all that, well, I can't become the best parent I am and being. I can't become the best coach I want to be, a mentor to these kids and to everybody in the life experience where I've been through. It's actually hopefully helps me on the next 40 years of my journey. That's just a small part. Lee Briers is a rugby player. Lee Briers liked a drink. Yeah, well, who doesn't when you're young? It's just part of a journey in life, and that's all it ever has been. And everybody makes mistakes, and if you show me somebody who's not made a mistake,
Yeah.
I'll show you a liar.
Well, that's a problem. This day and age with social media, and that we don't have like that forgiveness, do we? You know what I mean? Make a mistake, they need sap, they need
cancel culture and all that.
Cancel. Everyone's making mistakes, and if you make a mistake, apologise, move on, sort of thing.
The thing is, and I say it to everybody, it's okay making mistakes, but don't go and make 2, 3 of the same one.
Yeah,
that's just insanity.
Yeah.
But like I said, I have no regrets. Wow, I've had a great time, but that's only a small part of my life. I'm here for touch wood another 40, which is going to be even better than that because we're learning along the way.
What was Paul Cullen like as a coach when you were a young lad? Because when he was at Whitehaven, I think he was the first coach that came along that just didn't take any shit. He sort of brought a bit of professionalism to Whitehaven. I was only very young at the time, but I knew even all the old lads were like, fucking hell, you don't mess with Paul. What was he like at Warrington? Was he the same or?
I've got a lot of respect for Paul, and he commands respect for what he did in his career at Warrington. And then what he did at Whitehaven, he was a fantastic coach at Whitehaven. Paul come in at the time where we was nearly getting relegated and kind of saved us. He knew that what the Warrington club meant to him, so he then passed that on to his players, and we responded. And we see all this success now, or what Warrington has had success since 2009, but without Paul Cullen from 2-3 up until that, Warrington wouldn't be what we are. This house is built on foundations. Paul Cullen pulled the foundations into Warrington. So I love Paul. He's an unbelievable person, first and foremost, but he was a fantastic coach.
He always loved the same fitness drills, didn't he? Ones that, like, I'd never done a pancake before. Before I met Paul Cullen. All it is you run 10 metres, hit the floor, 10 metres, hit the floor.
Oh, yeah, I've seen them, yeah.
And it looks dead easy, doesn't it? I remember being like 16, 17, I thought, well, I'll piss that. Yeah. And I just started sprinting, and you go up to 6, don't you?
Yeah.
Go up to about 4, I started being sick.
Malcolm's,
pancakes, and because he used to say, Pancake Tuesday. If you got beat, no one wanted to go train on Tuesday, because he would just be like, get your change, where he used to make you change the ball with each line and stuff like that. And no, he was because he brought up a guy from Warrington Stevens. Warrington Stevens, yeah. Because he was a good player.
He was, way ahead of his time, Warren, as a prop, yeah.
Because he was quite good. Like, he was one of them that took weight in that series. I remember when you were younger, you're like, fucking hell, Warren's an absolute unit. And everyone else was just like doing curls on a Friday, whereas Warren was doing like the proper weights and stuff like that. But well, people like Paul and that, it's a shame they're not still more heavily involved in the game a bit more, isn't it? And we'd love to have him at Warrington. I would have thought, he's a legend in Warrington. But he is doing the disciplinary, believe it or not, Is that what he's doing?
At the NFL.
Right.
So Paul Cullen, who's been banned more times.
I'm just going to say that, yeah.
He's doing the disciplinary. You work that one out. He needs a role somewhere in Rugby League, and if that's his role, that's his role.
And Darryl Vandervelde, that was your first coach. So how did it change? Because you had some good coaches at Warrington. Because Tony Smith, everyone raves about Tony Smith. Every rugby player, Tony Smith does this, and his man management was great. Was he the same with you at Warrington?
Yeah, so obviously Darryl Vandervelde at the start was way ahead of his time. He was doing stuff what teams do now. He was fantastic, Darryl. He took no crap from anybody. Very, very strict. So he was great, but Tony Smith was the one who took me to the next level, and people thought that Tony Smith coming in was the end of me, but we actually have a really good relationship. He's a mentor to me, and he knew how to push me the right buttons. He used to ride me as hard as anybody, but also he understood me, and we got along like house on fire. And he was sensational for our club, Tony. Sensational. Because
you're the type of player that we always say that it's sort of drifting out the game. I like people that are like Mavericks, oh well, we're going to do this. If it's on off the scrum, we'll kick off the... You know what I mean? I just feel like Rugby League's getting a little bit robotic. Too structured, it's just one guy goes through, one out the back, miss one to the wing. It's very similar, each team plays, and to see a player that's... Like, Blake Austin's good, like people like that. But I just feel like, especially at youth level, you go and watch like an under-9s game, you can hear coaches like, get in the arm wrestle and play out your set. You're like, do 9-year-olds really want to hear that? Do you know, they should be doing the skills, dummies, side steps and stuff like that.
Learning how to love the game before they like to do the other stuff,
yeah.
Unless you, like, that's how I feel about it. I just feel like...
That's 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. I go over, Tatooine Rugby Club is 100 metres that way. So I walk down, it's my local club, and I walk down Tuesday, Thursdays, just to watch the coaches and see what they're doing, and give them a bit of tips, and it's always about fun. So when they're doing drills about You know, how did he do a block play for stop the drill? Because even the coaches don't know why you do it.
Yeah.
Get the ball, get some games, all about fun and games, and that's what you got to do. Because again, the basic skill of rugby league, if a guy always use it, houses are built on foundation, so you can't go and play rugby league without the basic skill. So you get the basic skill, put it into a fun game, and away you go. You don't need to be worrying about results and whatnot. But that's the way we're going, and we're the big part of that is Super League. How Super League's played, because it's like anything. If the kids are watching Super League, they want to be Super League players.
Yeah.
But if that product's how it is, they're just going to copy that. So we need to, if we're all happy with the way it's going, well, that's the way it's going. But if we're not, we need to change the way Super League's played, because people look up to us. It's like Premiership football. You know, my son played from being 6 to about 14. And I used to watch it, and the amount of times kids would get tackled and shout at the referee.
Ah, yeah, that
because
shivering on the floor.
Because
yeah.
they see it on a Saturday in Premiership.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a duty to occur to the next lot to make sure it's done right.
What would you bring in? Like, it's a hard one with rugby league, because the games, if you watch games 20 years ago, it's like a different sport than what you're watching now, isn't it?
It is, totally.
The thing I hated that come from Australia was the holding down at the ruck. The borderline falling asleep, aren't you? Like peeling off. And the last couple of years when I used to go training, it was all about just holding down, defence, the wrestle and things like that. And I feel like they should maybe balance it with maybe the skill side of it and attack just as much as defence, because people don't put on Super League. I tell you what, I love that ruck speed. They turn on for the attack, the big hits and things like that. And I feel like, especially even in the commentary, and that, like, oh, he's losing his hips there, and you think, unless you're banging to rugby league, you wouldn't have a clue what he's like. You wouldn't know what losing his hips is. And
no idea what you just said.
And I like how Australian rugby league market it. You see, like, they did that little bit with John Bateman, didn't they? A little bit about Bradford, how rough it was growing up now.
Yeah, why can't we do that?
Yeah, like, it's not hard, is it?
At the end of the day, it's costing it. It's money. They do just want. But as far as how do we change it? Good question. Maybe you're not allowed 3-man tackles. That would, that stops the wrestle then, because it's 1 man against 2. When it's 1 man against 3, generally 3 men win.
Yeah.
You know what you're saying about the money there? Obviously, like, there's a massive disparity, like, in terms of rugby union, rugby league, like, for money. Is that just through attendances?
No, it's not attendances. We actually have more attending rugby league than rugby union.
Right.
Rugby union have got the jewel in the crown is the internationals.
Yeah.
You know, they fill out Twickenham every time.
Yeah.
So that's where the money comes from. They get quite big sponsors. But as far as I know, attendances to the club matches, we outnumber them.
Right.
But don't quote me on that.
Yeah, because like I say, like the disparity seems to be huge.
Yes.
I mean, like the amount of rugby league lads that you see changing codes and going the other way, and 9 times out of 10, they say, well, listen, if I'm offered like 5-6 times like my wages, I've got to do it.
And the salary caps are, probably about 8 times more than what we've got.
Right. Yeah.
The sponsors, what they attract, theirs is more or less a southern sport as well, so they've got the big sponsors.
Yeah.
Were you ever tempted to go rugby union? Because you'll have definitely, because you would have fit in as a fly half, wouldn't you, in rugby union pretty well.
I got offered in 2001 to go to Pontypridd in Wales.
Right.
Got offered a shitload of money actually, but at the time I was going to get picked for Great Britain. I believe there wasn't. I actually made my debut for Great Britain, so it was worth it. I got 1 cap, and I lost out on a few million. So thanks.
Well, we were talking to Paul Schoolthorpe about this.
I've just got over that. Thanks. Got to see my psyche again.
We were saying that the thing that I hated when I used to watch Great Britain every time, they just wouldn't pick players like you, and not like, it was just bizarre. They would always go for a safe option.
Yeah.
And you thought, we've tried this for how many years now? 30, 40 years, and you're like, have a Lee Briers on the bench. It's tight. Come on, do something different. It just they never seem to go down that route.
I can't blame them not to. I can't blame them not for. Listen, it's documented. We've documented now. I wasn't a great professional at that time in my career, so what coach is going to take a risk? It's less hassle for him, and I can't blame him. It was my choice to do what I used to do, and again, I live and learn by it. Hopefully, I can educate somebody not to do what I did.
But
fine.
It's a double-edged sword, though, because sometimes the best players are always a big crackers. It's like football, like Gaza.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest, Gaza's a bit of a rascal off the field, isn't he? But on the field, he was great. Maradona.
If you're a maverick,
there's
something loose up top. Anybody, Andrew Johns, myself, they're like Bobby Golding. There's in our position, you've got to be a bit nuts. You've got to be a bit eccentric. It's the way we're wired up. But listen, I got no issue that I didn't get more Great Britain caps. I got the one. That's enough for me.
You could probably still put a rugby union now, though, if you wanted to go back, see if they take on, because rugby union, a few of them are like, especially when I think I went up Scotland, some of them are in their late 30s and things like that, and you wouldn't have to tackle.
Yeah, I played in a charity game last year at Liverpool St Helens, and it was Liverpool St Helens against an All-Stars, World 15. I'd never played rugby union in my life. It was 100 years, so there was some really good players. It was meant to be a charity game, and I scored 44 points.
Jesus.
I can't do contact because I've got 3 prolapse. Well, I had 3 prolapse discs in my neck, so I got them replaced. So I didn't make any tackles. I didn't get a tackle and I scored 3 tries and resting goals.
I'm just playing a dinner suit, can't you? That's what Paul Cullen's saying, wasn't he? Playing a dinner suit.
There was me, Sean Long, and Martin Gleeson, 9, 10 and 13. Paul Wellens at the back, Eddie Garden on the wing. Well, these had some massive South African players. I was going nowhere near them.
Rugby union, you don't have to tackle much anyways. I remember when I used to play, that's another thing with stats, like they're misleading, aren't they?
Oh.
Like rugby union, I used to just try and get involved, but rugby league, I'd be on the wing and I thought, I haven't made one tackle today. And just as a tackle late, you just go, that counts as a tackle. So I can remember doing it. I had 12 on Dave, and I think Dave Rovin was going, "Hey, Lebs, you're tackling well." And I thought, I'm not, Dave. Watch that video, because it's got a machine, hasn't it? And it, literally, and everyone knows that now, don't they? People are like, oh, he's done 65 tackles. I thought, has he brought 65 people down, or has he just went, there we go?
To be fair, I love the game. I love it. I watch it a hell of a lot. I study it quite a bit, and it's a fantastic game in its own right. And it kind of peeves me that people compare it to rugby league or compare union to league or league to union, because it's a totally different game.
Yeah.
There's a rugby ball, and that's probably about it. What's the similarities to it? It's a fantastic game in itself.
If you're an outside back, I think you've got more chance. So if you're a winger or something like that, you've got more chance coming from rugby union, rugby league, or rugby league, rugby union. I think in the middle, or because even standoffs and scrum out, they're so different, aren't they, the rules and that they play. But rugby union's learned a lot from rugby league. I think rugby union's one of them. They're quite happy to say, well, you lot are better at this. Yeah, we'll learn off you with this way. And I think that gap's probably got a bit close with fitness, because I remember when Wigan played Bath, and it was just like under nines playing an open age team, wasn't it? It looked embarrassing. Phil de Glanville and people like that, flapping at people.
John Callard, who's playing that day for Bath, he's on our staff at Warrington. He speaks about that regular. To be fair, they'd just won the European Cup, I think, and they'd been on a bender for 3 days and then played on the 4th day. So I still am not sure it would have made any difference, but it's chalk and cheese again. There's some crossover between it, but it's a fabulous game in itself.
Not just that, it's good for rugby league lads, because a lot of lads are making their living in rugby union now, aren't they? How many players from Super League now? Every time you see a rugby union match, you think, oh, there's Mike Forshaw, or there's Gleeson and something like that. So
well, I got offered the Wasps job last year. Got offered to be the attack coach at Wasps. It just didn't fit right with me at the time, but I could have well been coaching Wasps at this moment in time.
I was going to say, because rugby union attack as well, they've gone very much rugby league, haven't they? A lot of the blockers and stuff like that. Would you bring that into a rugby union team, or do you go back a bit more old school and think we'll just play a bit more heads up?
Heads up. You could with rugby union, because you could. And well, listen, they tell you themselves they're not specialists at running lines and stuff like that. So there's a lot of scope to coach them. So you could work straight from the bottom and teach them about numbers and looking eyes up and when to go and when not to go. It'd be that's what really interested me. I did a 5-day camp with England Rugby Union a couple of years ago. I went down to London and did a bit with Eddie Jones and John Clark, actually, I played with Warrington. He's the head strength and conditioners, got me down, and it was fascinating to watch. And it was really, it opened my eyes to how much I reckon I could teach them. Maybe one day that could be a possible role for me, because it was quite exciting.
Well, even at any level at rugby union, they're not even hooking in a lot, are they, when they pass? Like little things like even that line of run. I train with the local rugby union team just to keep fit. And if you hit that lead runner on the X, they're like, no, you meant to hit the guy behind. You're like, no, the move is you hit either one. You know, that's the option. And
that's a Paul Cullen, isn't it? X.
X, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of 20 years ago. yeah. So, yeah, that's it. They'll always hit the Batman.
Yeah.
Which is, the option is either or.
They sometimes run through. The front man's coming through like that, isn't he?
But that's again, you can't put it you can't say it's the same as rugby league, even though we do it different, because they don't do it the same as us.
But there's a few lads when I played union, it's not just that. There's a few animals that play rugby union. I think if they got coached up to play, like Whitehaven used to go Australia, New Zealand, and over the border in Scotland, they're playing this game. They're like animals, they're like cavemen or something like that, playing this game, rough as that. And
some of them number 6s and 7s.
Yeah.
Wow.
They put their head where you won't put your feet. Yeah. And that's why the faces all look mental, isn't it? And stuff. Look like MMA players, don't they?
Some of them are harder than a dog's head.
Yeah.
They like I said, the 7s and 6s, that's if I was going to go and recruit from rugby union, I'd be looking at them number 6s and 7s and making them into rugby league players, because they're tough, they're fast, they're agile. Very, very good players.
Well, back to your career, I was going to say, I've just seen Benny Westwood on there, one of the toughest players on that picture.
Toughest or thickest, did you say that?
You said that, not me. They're flogging us. The Challenge Cup, something that you won, and it was near at the back end of your career. I think, I look at the Challenge Cup as good as a Super League final, but I feel like Rugby League's like, not devaluing it these days, but they moved where they're going to play it and things like that. But when you play, where was the final at when you played? It was at Wembley, wasn't it? How special was that, especially towards the back end of your career?
It was immense. It was absolutely immense, and I'm like you, John, we got brought up on the Challenge Cup.
That's with the commentator Ray French and that.
It was everything to us.
Yeah.
Fucking goosebumps. So, I'll tell you a little story actually. 2009 we got to the Challenge Cup final, but leading into the Challenge Cup semi-final, I didn't sleep for the full week. I was a nervous player anyway. I used to be sick at games, and I didn't sleep. Probably had over the week 20 hours sleep, if that. And every morning I'd wake up and I'd be sick because of the nerves of the semi-final Challenge Cup, and then we ended up beating Wigan in the semi-final, which was unbelievable. Been at Warrington for 13 years then, and got beaten 5 semi-finals, which were killers. So very nervous going into the game. Beat Wigan, got to Wembley, it was unbelievable. So the week leading up to the final, slept like a baby. Slept all the way through, full week, relaxed, no nerves. Got to the game. Generally, game day, I used to be sick at the same time. There was no spew, nothing on the game day, and I was like, oh, this is weird. Gets out into the tunnel, my son was mascot. He's just chilled about. It probably made me a bit chilled, and I played the game, and it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. And then obviously reflecting on that when I'd finished, and wondered why I didn't have any nerves. I had nerves in every other game, even if I was playing against Swinton or I was playing against Wigan in the league. I had nerves. I didn't have nerves in the lead up to the week. No nerves on match day. And then I realised, from being 4 years of age and going back to your point, Challenge Cup was everything. Every little piece of land, what I used to kick a ball on, or any post or any lamppost in my mum and dad's street, it was always a post, and I would always kick to drop goal to win at Wembley. And I practiced that over and over again in my head. And they reckon 10,000 hours of something, or 10,000 times, means that you've mastered it.
Yeah.
Well, I'd played at Wembley 10,000 times in my head, easily, from being 4 up until in 2009. What was it? Probably 28, maybe. 2009. I was. What am I now? 42. I'm shit at maths. You'll have to do that.
We'll edit that. Don't worry.
Yeah. So I'd already done it. So coming to Wembley, it was my home. I've been here, in my head, and I weren't nervous. And I played there 2 times later in the Challenge Cup, and not once nervous. I've been there and done it, and that's why, 1,000,000%. So it was unbelievable. The 2009 one was, oh God, the club had not won it there in 34 years, and the celebrations was just mental. People ask me how long did you celebrate for? Well, till I packed in drinking 8 months ago. till then. So yeah, fabulous times, fabulous.
That's why I used to get that Super League coupon. I used to say, whoever wins that Challenge Cup, they always got beat the week after, didn't they? And like people were saying, oh, I don't know why the form's dropping. I thought, well, the normal lads, they've been drinking for 5 days straight. Well, then, like, if you looked at that coupon, I don't know how people never got that right.
Yeah.
And they always got beat no matter who they were playing or out like that. Did you beat Whitehaven in that year when you beat in 2009? Or was that
we could have done at home. Is that right?
Yeah, because I got picked because...
Yeah. We did. Yeah.
You were down, Whitehaven were down to 17 players, and I still never nearly got picked. They were trying to get loans in, physio to play, and because you don't have a winger on the bench, do you ever? Basically, there's no one else. So I can remember being on the bench, and a few friends and family come down because it was Warrington, the new stadium. I was on the bench, and I thought, oh God, this is all right. And then we were getting loads of injuries because you lot were butchering us. And I think Sicey got knocked out, and Peter Smith went, oh, Sicey's going to have to come off. He's been knocked out. And
Smith, what a blow.
And Dave Rotherham was like, oh yeah, get him off, he looks injured. And they said, we've only got Lebbs on the bench. And there was just like a massive silence. like that, like I was looking at my family and like giving it the thumbs, like, here we go, like giving it the stretch. But you can hear on the Warrington bench, can't you, as well? Everyone's close together. Yeah. And he just said, Jesus Christ, there must be someone else. Like over the microphone. Fucking hell, Dave. That's jeez.
Dave lives on this estate.
Dave Rotherham does?
Yeah.
I have to go and glass his house. No, Dave's a great fella, but you just did not need that ego boost going on. I thought, fucking hell, Dave.
Brilliant. Did you get on?
Come on.
Did you actually get a touch?
Well, it was only like the last 25 minutes or something like that, but they had like a team of internationals, players that I hadn't played in months or out like that. Before you go on, the coach would rather have just played with one less. But so your Challenge Cup story is better than mine, Lee, to be honest.
Well, it's all a story, isn't it?
The thing with Rugby League, that's why the Challenge Cup's good, because amateur teams get that chance. So, remember, Eggman beating Workett and Town, probably the best days you've ever watched.
Yeah. Well, go on, sorry.
No, that's what I mean. It's just a bit of a leveler, isn't it? I think on any given day at home, Rugby League's that little bit. You've got that chance, haven't you? Someone like Whitehaven's got a chance against Wigan at home, muddy pitch. Yeah. They've still got a chance.
Yeah, and it's the fairy tale, isn't it? Even if they don't have a chance. So in 2000, we were drawn against Woolston Rovers. So look, Warrington Wolves and Woolston Rovers. So Woolston's probably the most, well-known amateur club in Warrington. Probably the best level at that time you could play in Warrington if you're an amateur. Come up against big brother Warrington Wolves, and we played them at Wilderspool. So the likes of these amateurs are playing against Alan Langer at the time. Who would ever thought that? So that story in itself, it's like the FA Cup, innit? There's always that romance with it.
What do you reckon they should do with the Challenge Cup now? Because it used to be played on a similar weekend every year, wasn't it? Because my dad used to go down, he'd book that. It was the only place he went every year, so he'd book it in. Whereas now, it could be end of August, it could be April.
They've brought it forward to July. It was meant to be in July this year, wasn't it? So the August doesn't work. Going back to your point, was if you won the Challenge Cup, and generally you're more or less fighting for the Super League as well. It's hard to get back up for Super League. We've only 4 weeks to go, so they've moved it to July. Maybe, I don't know why they moved it from May at the time when that was the best time to do it.
That's right. But just when you were younger, I used to remember Martin Fire going the full length and stuff like that. Yeah. Absolutely packed stadium, and people just made that their weekend, didn't it? It wasn't matter who was going. Whereas now, you only find out if you're playing there the week before, is it, or 2 weeks before? It's just people just don't have the money anymore. Do they think, weekend in London, I've got 7 days to get the money together and stuff.
And then if when did they kept in August, and then in October, 2 months later, you could be in a grand final. It's crackers.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just you're one of that's not into Rugby League. What if you look at Rugby League from the outside in, what would you think would be better to?
It just doesn't seem to be very well advertised and very well pushed. I don't know if that's just if that's just a financial thing or if that's a thing like from the top down. But it's like you say. I mean, as happens, I think it is quite robotic now. We were saying before about how every player, you couldn't really tell. And we spoke about this with Paul Sculthorpe the other week. We were saying you couldn't tell the difference nowadays between a winger and a centre or whatever, whichever position you're saying. Because they're all 6'2", they're all 6'2", 14, 15 stone, all massive, all shredded. Whereas back in I remember watching that. You're talking about Challenge Cup finals there, Robbie Paul. When was that? Was that 90? Was it
96?
96. Yeah. I remember those kind of memories. That's the ones I remember watching. Or did Sheffield Eagles get to
That was
a...
it.
Was that the year? Yeah.
98 beat Wigan.
Yeah, like I remember those kind of finals. Whereas and you had more characters, like even going back to like Sean Long, yourself, Martin O'Fight, and those kind of players. But it doesn't feel as though it just doesn't.
I think they're media trained, and it's media trained, and basically, like, you know for a fact, in rugby league, it's got the best characters, the funniest people in the planet. Every rubby club's got hilarious people, but you never see that on Super League. It never comes across like that. It's always like, yeah, well, this week we're going to train hard, and
I think by going professional, we've took the fun out of it. And it doesn't have to be like that. All we want is genuine people. If you say something wrong on a camera, well, sometimes you will, because it's pressure, isn't it? But don't be robotic. Be genuine in what you're doing. If you're genuine, well, your character will come out, won't it?
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you're behind the scenes a little bit more, because you sell the plate, like when you watch MMA, you know about the family, the kids, the upbringing and stuff like that, and you think, you've got an invested interest in that person. And I think in rugby league, you wouldn't really know what does Alex Walmsley do in his spare time and stuff like that, and what does he...
And that's what we need, don't we? We need to get more... And the guys will love that. I used to always... It's kind of the same thing, but on a match day, you get a programme, you're looking at the programme, you want to pass 20 minutes. Some match days, you wouldn't get any player profile in there. But if there's 2 or 3 player profiles, you'd be reading it, and everybody wants to know, don't they? It's stuff like that. You want to know what that individual gets up to, what's his hobbies, what does he do away from, what's his,
Yeah, because it humanises them then, and then you feel as though you're starting to learn something about that player, as opposed to, well, as you say, we don't know anything about him. All I see is 80 minutes on a Saturday, and then he goes away. And as far as I'm concerned, he doesn't exist outside.
We can't be like the Premiership soccer. We can't be where they're in a totally different world and have to be. But it doesn't mean we have to be. And the guys would love that. He just needs somebody to invest in it, I suppose.
I was going to say, I like Rugby AM. They do a good job, don't they? They're doing a good
to it.
Yeah, they're good lads that are trying to promote that side of things. It's like they used to have, what was that programme on Sky Sports on a Wednesday, wasn't it? Boots and all, something like that. Bring that back, and then each week go to an amateur club,
again,
professional
it comes down to dollar, doesn't it? Whether Sky are going to do it. But we're too busy, thinking of other things, and it's not hard to market rugby league.
It's a good product to watch, isn't it?
People about.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's not like normally, like, you're selling boxing. Sometimes a boxing match is over in a minute, but people aren't upset or anything, are they? Because they like the people that are fighting, big entrance and stuff.
This is the thing that, I know that this is one of your bugbears, that they don't sell if you like the violent side of rugby, because that's exciting. Like when you see like the big hits and the smashing, and if every now and then, if 2 big massive lads are going to get angry at each other and they're going to start throwing a few digs, well, you sell that because you want to watch that. Okay, lovely, great moves and lovely tries. They're good to watch, but to the outsider, it's, as you're saying about the MMA and the boxing, well, you're selling the violence. You're selling. That's the excitement of it. Like, as an outsider, that's what I'd like. I'd like to be sold on.
That's rugby league. That is rugby league. Me going against somebody opposite and trying to beat him. Which way ever you want to win. And we can't lose focus on that. We can't go PC saying, it's violence. It's rugby league. If not, let's make it tick and pass.
Because any passive fans are going to look in if there's tries are like full length tries or skillful tries, or the violence, isn't it? So they're the 2 bits you should get them to and promote it, isn't it? It's not like people aren't that bothered about like sliding defences. I don't know, no one's going to flick off and go, look at that sliding defence, lovely that, or marker defence and stuff. But I feel like sometimes when they're commentating that, they're focusing on things that passive fans aren't as interested in. Not even passive, I'm just not that.
It's got to be explosive. Anyway. It doesn't have to be somebody punching 10 bells out of somebody's head. It doesn't have to be that, but it's just got stale at the moment. And we've had some really good stuff in rugby league over the last 18 months.
Now, them tries in the corner and stuff like that, that's added to the game, hasn't it? Things like that. But it's just over bits.
Well, going back to when you were saying to me why I'm not a massive fan of it, as you're saying, because at the moment it almost feels though like when you got the 2 lads going up against each other, it's like the unstoppable force and the immovable object, a bit because you've not got the smaller lads anymore, like the Jason Robinsons and the nippy little lads. So you kind of feel as though, well, what is it that they're bringing that's different to them?
Yeah.
Because if it's all so robotic and it's all the exact same, then no one's really got like that difference maker. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, point of difference, and it is because the styles of teams are the same as well.
Right.
Yeah, you have to.
It's crackers. It needs rejigging a bit. Again, I'm not sure. Well, I've got my own ideas. If I was going to be a head coach, I've got my own ideas, but at the moment I don't want to be a head coach, so I won't put it out there.
That's the worst thing you can be, a head coach. I always see players that are in your position think, don't go for head coach, you'll do it for a year or two, be out of a job.
Exactly.
Just keep in the background, get your wage. Because how many people have made that jump up and like go to assistant and they get the job and it's all like, oh, I've got a suit and that.
Yeah, I had a plan, so I've got a 10-year plan. I'm 8 years into it now, and at the end of that was to be an head coach. That's changed. That's changed, and I'm not too sure I want to be a head coach.
I think it'd be a struggle now because if you didn't play the same way as everyone else, you'd get beat. Because it's so boring, like you're boring each other to death. Yeah. That's how it sometimes looks like. And if you started like kicking off a scrum or going wide on the first tackle, if it didn't pay off, everyone would be like, oh, well, go Hulky, I've done it the other week. First 15, 20 minutes, brilliant. And everyone was like, oh, this is great. And then like they started getting beaten, no, he needs to start doing. And you're like, well, he's trying something different. He knew if he went toe-to-toe with Warrington, they've got a better team. Yeah. So you had to try something different. And I just, the agree, like it was very mixed. I think Chris Foreman and someone like that put on, and he was all for it. And I thought, have a go if you're gonna.
100%. If you've got to find a different way to win.
Yeah.
You can't always be the same. There's going to be levels. So, if you go, it's like Australia. Australia miles better than us. So why do we play, the grind against Australia? That's what they do.
Yeah.
What Australia won't be prepared for is if Great Britain move the ball from side to side, intimate angles. They won't be prepared for that. Now, if we've got our best players in Great Britain being able to execute that plan, well, they'll beat Australia. UK, unfortunately, didn't have great players to execute that plan. They probably got the best out of what they could. But we're talking about Great Britain, the best of the best, putting a plan together. And if they execute it, they'll beat Australia. Because it's different, not the grind.
Well, that's what we were saying to Paul Sculthorpe. We've tried copying them for 40 years or 50 years, and it hasn't worked. You're like, when do you get to the point and say, I tell you what, we're going to have our own plan, we're going to go wide, we're going to do this. And the nearest we've ever got is when we've done something different, like Long in Australia, when you've done that, and just try something different. Because it's like in boxing, you'd rather someone get knocked out swinging. Wouldn't you? And I hate when we get beat, we're getting closer. Brian Noble used to say, we're getting closer, and you think, God, that's 1998, that in 2015, I'm going to be an old fella time we get that close. And
we're not getting that close.
If you're always going to copy, you're never going to be as good, are you, either? So, because they used to copy us in the 80s and 70s, didn't they? Like, England started beating them, and then it just went that total other way. So I don't know what you could do.
But it's like this now. So in Australia this year, they're saying, they've got the old-fashioned loose forward, that playing loose forward. We've always had that. We've always had that. What we did do, though, we went over in this country, we went to the loose forward being a prop because we copied Australia.
Yeah.
So what's Australia done now? They've got rid of that and gone back to the loose forward. So they'll be saying, we brought the loose forward back in before anybody. We've always had that, but we've just copied Australia to go boring. And now we'll go with the ball playing loose forward again. It's crackers.
No, it's you probably don't know what it means. It just, Australia play a very I would call it like negative style, wouldn't it? Well, especially international, it's just sort of like
a war of attrition.
Yeah, they call it like getting in the arm wrestle, basically. Just kick, defend, don't drop the ball, and after a while,
but they can do that because of their outside backs are 6'4" and can run like Linford Christie.
Yeah.
So they can make an opportunity from nothing.
Right.
Well, we can't do that because we're not athletically gifted as them. So if we went set for set against them, they'd always come out on top in my eyes because they can have players who can just do that one-off good thing.
Right.
Well, we need to move them and put them players under pressure. Well, we're challenging them with numbers and coming at them instead of just one-off hit-ups.
No, we're like the last time England played, that team there should beat Australia. There isn't many players that say I'd rather have that Australian. There is a few, but you know what I mean, like levelly, and you think. I think Wayne Bennett was very Australianised. I think if we just played a little bit wider, I just feel like we would have walked it. Well, not walked it, but I definitely think we would have won with the players we had.
Quite possibly, hopefully. But Wayne Bennett's a proven master coach.
That's what I mean. You can't knock someone who's won everything. It's like Alex Ferguson of rugby,
but
isn't he?
He's done that in an Australian comp. What's different to an English comp?
Yeah.
But Sean Wayne's coach now. Sure things will change.
Well, that's what we're saying at Paul Schofield. Paul Schofield is assistant, and Sean Wayne, they're going to have a go, don't you? Like, you just know that's going to be like firing. I think when you're at home with a few cans in the house, that's all you want, isn't it? Just a bit of rough in the middle, and then just have a go.
Have a go, and you can go down swinging with anybody.
Yeah. No, it's a weird one because Sean Wayne, I think, is like the master of motivation as well, isn't he? When you see them behind the scene things.
I wish he wasn't. Done us in a couple of grand finals.
When you were growing up, who was a player that you looked at? Which, like we were saying about yourself and Sean Long when we were watching telly. When you were younger, who did you watch on telly and think, I'm going to practice that sidestep or that dummy? And
I was into all kinds. So soccer, I was into football. Should I say not soccer? It's fucking Australian, that. So Kenny Dalglish, I love Kenny Dalglish. So,
for fuck's sake, Lee.
Oh, you were blue?
Yeah, I am.
Do you want to go out the front door?
Yeah, I will in a minute.
Kenny Dalglish was my idol. Neil Oldham was another one. Andy Gregory, small in stature, but Hearts of Lions, loved them. I just loved any sport, still do. So I can't really pick one. I suppose what I would say is that they're all of them three are number 7s, and I was a number 7 myself. So there's that many. I loved every type of sport: snooker, golf. I love golf now. So as long as I had a rugby ball in my hand or a soccer ball.
Did you lean towards the more maverick type of players, the ones that we're going to do a little bit?
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying. Like, I think if you get more of them players in the sport, obviously more people are going to watch it because that's what everyone's gunning towards.
It comes down to us teaching them. So us now, if we don't get a grip on it and change something, we're never going to get them. Because I'll tell you, it just go so structured.
What were you like as with your kid growing up, rugby-wise? Because you get two types of dads at rugby. You get the ones that are like, win or lose, we're going to McDonald's. Or were you like, if you lose, you're not eating and you're sleeping in the garage? Or were you in between?
Yeah, no, I was the second one.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't expecting that response, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it was... It wasn't... Because I coached him. I cursed myself, if I did regret anything in life, I don't regret, but if I did, it would be that if I could go back, I'd never coach him ever again. I fell into the role. Went down one Tuesday night and the coach didn't turn up, and Lee, would you mind stepping in? And stepped in. He was at age of 6, and then started coaching him on a full time basis, and then started forming bonds with the kids, and then couldn't get out. But whereas the kids were like my friends, and I was their coach. After the training finished or game had finished, they'd go home and spend time. My son was coming home with a coach and not coming home with his dad.
Yeah.
And I get emotional. And it's about relationship, really. Well, we're best mates, but it was always I knew better, and that shouldn't be right. So at 14, I said, that's it, I'm done. I can't put you through it. So I stopped, and I didn't see him play or train from 14 up until I think he made his debut at Warrington at 16. I didn't have anything to do with him. Didn't have Warrington to go for him, and left him be, and he found his own way. And in that time, the bond between us was just strong as ever. But probably should have been stronger before that. He idolises me, and I probably took advantage of that because I should have just let him be a kid. But no, now he's fabulous. He's too nice to be fun.
Yeah.
I want him to have a bit of shit, but leave him to be. I leave it. He trains at Warrington, does all his stuff on his own. I don't see him at Warrington. He's got to find his own way. And, I guide him as a dad now, not as a coach, unless I'm coaching him. But nah, I even have to pull back sometimes. I have a rule, and I have it on my board at work. Is I'm a dad at home, but I'm a coach at work, and that's how it'll be.
It's a fine line, isn't it? Because I've seen people who've done that with the kids and stuff, and you think that they don't go too hard. It's the same with coaching, because you were such a good player. I think it'd be hard to coach. I was nowhere near as good as player as you, but I'd find it like when you're trying to tell someone, it's hard when they just can't even like throw a pass, because you think, well, I could do that when you were 8. You know what I mean? You're meant to be 6, and for you to be like such a good player to try and pass it on, it must be hard, and especially when it's your son, because you only want the best for him, but they're still got to have a life, haven't they? So
and what I see, I suppose why I was quite hard on it is because skill-wise, I've never seen anything like it. He's unbelievable. It's just the other part of it working. It kind of comes too easy for him, so he doesn't value the working hard. Now, Warrington have been great. Pete Ryden and Paul Anderson, his work ethic's unbelievable now, and hopefully that was a missing piece. You know, like now, he's working. He's a labourer. Just to get him work ethic with a pal of mine. And I said to my pal, I don't want him paying. Just give him some work ethic, just to find. It doesn't all come easy. He doesn't get given stuff. He's got to work hard like anybody else, and so he does that. And you know, at the end of the week, my pal gives him some cash, and he's buzzing with that. But he's got work ethic, and if he doesn't make it rugby, well, that's fine. Not everybody's going to be successful, and I've come to realise that. And whatever he's going to be, he's going to be. Simple.
I think it's good to have a job though, like, because I think if you go right into rugby from when you're 16 to 18 and that's your job sort of thing, I don't think you've got realisation how hard it is to be on a building site. You're like, oh, got to train twice a day, what a nightmare. Whereas reality is, if you're going to get a real job, you'll be up at 6, 100%. Getting in at 6 at night, soaked, no money or anything like that, no one's bothered. So that'll be a good like life experience for moving forward.
Of course it is, yeah. You know, I did the same. Left school 16. I had a few jobs. First job was a carrot picker on a farm. Thank fuck I made it rugby because I didn't want to go back to that. But that was, again, it was 6 o'clock in the morning. I had to be there. I travelled on my dad's old push iron, racer bike, cranky as heck, pissing down rain. Worked there from 6 till 5 at night, get home, train. And then I moved from there to be, I used to put pop bottles in a washer. By the end it gets round the end, it's back as a full bottle of pop, and then I was looking for a mate full time, but you've got to have that grounding at first to know how easy it is. And I suppose nowadays maybe that's what we're lacking, because they come straight from college, school, whatnot, into full time professional. You know, we have done it, I've seen it a bit, but not to a point where I'd send the young kids and make sure, like at 16, 17, they work and come training twice a week full time, not the other way around.
Well, it's a weird one, because a lot of lads at rugby and that, especially with no second teams and stuff like that, they're getting taken and spewed out, aren't they? So like they're basically thinking they're going to be this, and then they're getting spewed out. So have that little bit of realisation that rugby's not going to last, or we were talking about this, Paul Sculfer. It's weird how many rugby players get to like 30, 33 and they're like,
no plan
whatsoever. You know what I mean?
You wouldn't believe it.
It's just sort of like, you just think it like, it's getting towards the end, and especially being a full-time player, you'd be able to do a course, wouldn't you, something like that, or like.
So I use this one, and it's hard. It would be hard to tell a young kid at 17, don't play Super League, play Championship, because they want to play at the top. But when I break it down and go, listen, if you play Championship, right, you could go and get, let's say you get a contract for £30,000. Then you go and get a job for another 30, 40 grand, whatever. That takes you up to 70. That then is a really good wage for Super League. It's more than average. It's not the highest, it's not the lowest, but it's a really good wage. Fast forward then to 35 years of age. You played Championship all your life. You've been around, that 70 grand all your life from work, and then when you finish, you drop your Championship money of 30, you go to 40. Which is a decent wage still. Yeah. You've got work ethic, because you've worked all your life, so you know what it's about, and you're retiring from rugby, but actually still working. Fine. Swap that for a Super League player who comes in at Super League at 17, gets an average wage of 40, 50 grand at Super League. 40 grand, let's say. Then he moves up to being a good player, gets 140 grand. Retires at 35, but he's been on 140 grand for 10 years. Then he's got to drop down to a job of 30 grand. So he's lost 110 grand. that's a massive drop. Never worked in his life, and being on 30 grand from 140, that's when the mental side comes in. That's when you can't handle it. You've been on 140 grand for 10 years. Dropping that much it's hard. So, yeah, you've been at the top of Super League, but you've not earned a hell of a lot of money. You can't retire. And then you've got to start working at 35.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You've got your grounding as a championship player. Yeah, you've not seen the highlights of Super League. But at the end of the day, you've got a long time left in the world.
Yeah.
And that's why we see a lot of people struggle.
Well, I remember at Whitehead when they were looking like they were going to go up, and a lot of the lads worked at Sallerfield.
They didn't want to go.
And they just didn't want to. No, I wouldn't say that no one wanted promotion, but it was one of them you could tell, like, everyone's got families and that. Like, the job at Sallerfield getting 40 grand a year, and they're like, sign Super League, you'll get 30. You're like, gotta take a 10 grand pay cut to be. Like, it was sort of like, I can remember there was like a lot of like people talking about it and things like that. And there's so many players in Cumbria that were decent jobs that have been offered Super League. And they turned it down. They just like Kyle. I can remember when Kyle Amor got offered, and it was less money than what he was getting in his job to go and sign for Leeds Rhinos. So it was just because Kyle's so dedicated and things like that. He took that leap.
It's not all bright lights.
No.
Super League. It's like it's a pinnacle of what you want to be as a rugby player. Let's not in this country. Let's not deny that. But you know, it's not the be all and end all. Not in my eyes anymore. You know, I might not be saying it if I didn't ever see it, but there's more to it than just playing Super League.
Do you miss playing though in the games? Because I'm one I don't play anymore, but there's certain times you watch it and think I wouldn't mind playing, but it's not. It goes away slightly, doesn't it? The more you don't play. And
Man went away within probably a month of retiring. I was ready to retire. And also, I went straight into coaching, and I was coaching the academy, and I never want to be one of these ex-players who are bitter about the game, and, you know, the game gave me everything. You know what? I owe the game everything. The game owes me nothing. You know, like I said earlier on, from a council estate, no qualifications. If I didn't have Rugby League, I wouldn't want to think what I could be doing now. So I owe it everything, and I didn't want to look back and still think I could do it. And so when I was coaching the academy, if I wasn't 100% sure that, you know, I didn't want to ever do it again, I wouldn't be giving them lads the best opportunity to go on and do what I did. So no, I don't miss it one bit. Even in the big games, when we've been at Wembley and Old Trafford, no, my time's been, enjoyed it, loved it, and really looking forward to the rest of my life.
I was going to say, you could have been running that carrot farm now, couldn't you?
I've walked through, we go walking on a Sunday, I've walked through a few times. Fucking that was a nightmare.
Well, I helped my mate in lockdown. He does plastering, and he said, "Oh, give us a day." Like, I haven't done proper work in 8 years, done comedy and presenting and stuff like that. And I'd done a day's plastering. Honestly, I got home, I couldn't even speak. I was just that like, I can't do that. That's too hard. Do you know what I mean? Like moving stuff all day. And it's just that reality check you need sometimes, because you do get spoilt, whatever your life is. You'll do the same when you think, oh, I wouldn't mind getting out golf today, and I've got to go and take lads rugby for an hour. You just get spoilt, don't you? What you do?
Golfing.
You sort of like you get, no matter what, even millionaires like, oh god, I wish I had $1 billion. I think sometimes that realisation that it could be a lot worse, couldn't it? And
so Cole probably doesn't know this, but there was times in my career when Paul Cullen was coaching around that area where, you know, I needed reality back in my life, so I'd have a few days off training and say I was ill, but I wasn't ill. I was going labouring. Labouring for my friend just to get me back into the real world, and make sure that my feet are on the ground. I've always and will never ever forget where I come from, but it's sometimes you lose track of that, and it's not through no fault of your own. It's just the way you get caught up in a bubble. So there's many times where I've actually worked in Warrington on putting glass in bars and stuff with me hood up when I'm meant to be at training, just because it wasn't that I was doing anything mischievous. It's just that I wanted to get my head right and, you know, making sure that I knew how lucky I was.
All rugby players are the same. No, it's the same with boxing, MMA, and rugby. Everyone comes from the same background, don't they? Like my bird always says, how come they're always council estate? And I said, it's because it's the toughest lads, isn't it? You know what I mean? And they're the ones that are going to try that little bit harder. She'll come up against someone that's come up in a private school and he's got everything. he's not going to be as tough as you coming from a carrot field thinking, if I don't make this tackle, that's a difference, isn't it? And you see it all the time in boxing and stuff like that. And it's just weird that you couldn't go the other way, where like when you're retired, a lot of the players in Super League just aren't like intelligent to go on to like run Super League. You know, like in Rugby Union, you have all these like Rob Andrew type players, and I think that's what Rugby League's sort of lacking, the guidance at the very top.
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer in, knowledge is wealth.
Yeah.
What the stuff I've picked up over the years, going back to when I first said I couldn't put two sentences together. Now I can go and speak in front of 1,000 people in an audience, and knowledge, you get wealth through it, and you learn on the job, and it's most of it's just common sense, isn't it? Just have a bit of common sense. It's like COVID, common sense. it's like you look at stuff and you go, what's people doing in all walks of life? And there's some people in Rugby League who would be brilliant at running the game, but it is a game. It's complex. There's a lot of things to be sorted out at the top, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But
no,
it does need doing, and there's a lot of people in Rugby League who smart people, but we kind of don't get given the chance after the game.
I thought it was weird when COVID first started coming in. They were saying, "Oh well, rugby matches are going to carry on, but we're not going to shake hands at the start." And you thought, that's not really solving much, is it? You know what I mean? You're fucking having scrums, you're tackling, you're like, "Fucking, is this really what
sweating all over each other?"
Yeah, but we're not going to shake hands at the start or at the end. So people are like, given that, I think that is just ridiculous, isn't it? And it's the same now. Like, you either play it or you don't. I don't know how you're going to carry on. Like, COVID's here to stay, isn't it?
Yeah, until we get a vaccine, but.
It could be. Average vaccine takes about 6 years, doesn't it? Apparently. So is everything going to stop till then? And you see people. Was it Hull that had like half the team that's got COVID?
And you can get it that quick. So it's strange, isn't it? But I'm really pleased that we've got Rugby League back, and it's been a long road to get it back, and the people at Rugby League need commending for that, because it's a dangerous situation we're living in, isn't it? It is. It's a dangerous situation.
Well, it's weird because we live up at Sallerfield, next to a nuclear power plant, and people are more bothered about COVID. You're like, well, have you seen that thing over there? You know what I mean? Like, if that goes off, you won't be bothered about this. This is sort of... But I'm hoping Rugby League I'm hoping all sports just get back going, and it'd be nice to get the crowds back in, because the thing with Rugby League, it's not like football, like, oh, we're not going to have crowd. You think, there's Rugby League teams without the crowd, they can't run it, like Whitehavens and Workingtons and things like that. Without the crowd, I'd say that's about 80% of their...
Yeah, the spectators run our game, and that's why we should be... That's why we should be, what's the word? We should be so happy when we get it back, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know what you've got till you've not got it, and supporters of our game are everything.
How did the players keep fitting lockdown? Because that's a bit high, I imagine. Because I can imagine the ones that are dedicated were doing it, and then the ones that were the steam pigs will have just been doing press ups in the house once a week.
Let's go back to when I played. 20 weeks would have been 20 weeks off.
Yeah.
That's it. Drink, eat. But the lads nowadays, they're ultra fit, ultra. I suppose. Well, they love social media, don't they? So they want to be putting their arms on there and stuff like that. Where we couldn't give a toss when we was playing, but that's what they live for, isn't it? The fitness and the health, and so they are super professional. Obviously, some of them wouldn't have been going as hard as most, but they come back in really good shape. And I suppose that at the start of it, everybody, got a load of stuff from the gym, from our gym, took everything and ripped in as hard as they could. But the longer it went, it was harder to keep that.
Yeah.
So we give them all individual programs, and made sure that actually when they did say we were back, that they had 6 weeks to then blast it. So it's strange, but everybody was in the same boat, weren't they? How
long do you reckon you'd have lasted if social media's around when early 2000s when you were playing?
Oh, jeez. There were pictures of me everywhere drinking. But that's the life we live in. These guys can't do that, can they?
It's weird now. We were talking about this.
I wouldn't like to be
I wouldn't have the time. People say, oh, you've got to keep putting updates on your social media. Like, do you want to put me breakfast on? No. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to put smash the gym. I think that's cringy as fuck.
Well, it's like now. It's like now. I just read today that there's been 4 players been banned from Super League 14-day period for COVID breaches. So people have looked on their social media, seen that they are not oh, by the way, we're 2 metres here. Seeing that they're not COVID regulated and they've been banned, fined and banned, that's all come from social media. It's crackers. But you've got to be careful. You can't be posting stuff what is not in line with Super League. And so we've only been doing this for 10 minutes, by the way.
We've done a check.
Well, if you can't be 2 metres, like, what is it, like, stay a metre if you can't be 2 metres. And I reckon that's a good metre and a half.
I'll be honest, Lee, I feel hot and I'm hoping it's the sun. I'm just getting a bit of a dry cough on, so I'm just hoping this is the sun.
That used to be my test, you know, go out on a Saturday, get blind drunk, and then sit here on a Sunday, sweating it out.
But cheers for coming on, Lee. After a class
Nice one,
play,
cheers,
great
pal.
bloke. Cheers for coming on.
Nice
Cheers,
one.
pal.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, bud.
Cheers.